Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. This is an on-the-road episode. And with me, captive in the bed and breakfast, are my B&B bros, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork, Lyndon Radchenka, known the world over now as Steven's #1 supporter. We'll get to that in a minute. And Zach Schuster, who is actually making real art like a real artist on the table with India ink and proper art boards, and is looking at us with disdain that we dare to interrupt his artistic process with conversation. Say hello, Zach.
Oh,
You're probably going to have to speak up louder than that for this.
he's not far off. I'm being held captive. I was set up at this table when it was descended upon by these guys.
We are here in Saskatoon on the lee side of the Calgary Expo. We've done 4 days of the Calgary Expo, which is one of Canada's largest, or I guess it's its second largest Comic-Con. And we make it part of an ongoing book tour where we do Calgary and Saskatoon back to back as we wind our way home. We've had many misadventures in strange lands, and we're going to tell you, the dear listener, about some of them so that if you are interested in doing this, you can either be encouraged or warned way off of this sort of strange lifestyle.
Why do we drive for these shows and not fly?
That's a great
I
question.
had the option to fly, and I chose to drive with you guys once enough room opened up.
Why would you do such a thing? What benefits are there to driving?
How dare you?
I liked the conversation. I'm not elaborating. That's all I got.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes it can be a very isolating experience to be a writer or an illustrator. You do a lot of your work on your lonesome, in your own time, wondering if it will connect with an audience or if it will connect with, even yourself by the time you're finished. And so I find that this journey where we all pile into a vehicle together is a good way to reconnect with human beings in a significant way who understand what it is you're trying to do.
Is that even when we're all sleeping? Because, Gregory, you are driving with an audiobook on, and the rest of us have our hoods up, headphones on, and we're passed out in the back seat?
It's good. It's good. Because you have no idea the exciting things you've missed on those times.
I missed how the big bad of the story died, and then I got back for the finale, but I'm missing like the coolest part, just the climax of your...
Just the climax of the story, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will listen to an audiobook, and while people are sleeping, when you wake up, the first job is to hand off what happened in the story while you were napping. It's 13 hours, I guess, to Calgary from Winnipeg.
Yep.
But the time change buys us an hour back. So on the clock, it's 12 hours. And it goes by, honestly, pretty fast. I did the first 7 hours of the journey here without too much fuss or bother.
Well, and then that leads into the first big change of the Calgary Expo setup this year, which involved pallet shipping.
Pallet shipping.
Pallet shipping?
What's that?
We got to the point. So there was a couple different options to get us all to Calgary with our stuff. One, you can fly, but then suddenly you can only bring 2 to 3 suitcases and you can max out the weight. And for Canada's biggest show, that's not the most ideal situation. The next is drive. And driving is great because you can bring a lot, but both Gregory and I have gotten to the point where we can't share a vehicle with anybody else because we have so much stuff that I would take up a vehicle, he would take up a vehicle. Lyndon and Steven are approaching like half a vehicle worth of stuff as well.
Yeah, last year when we did this show, we drove a truck that had all of our stuff and a fair amount of your stuff.
Fair amount of our stuff as well.
Yeah.
So then suddenly we're looking at 3 vehicles on the road. So the solution we came up with this year is we'll get a pallet together. We got 2 pallets together from Winnipeg, and we arranged with the Fan Expo to have them shipped from Winnipeg to Calgary and to have them delivered at our booth. And then that way, all 3 of us could drive together. So now we're just driving one vehicle.
Yeah, and what you would normally spend on gas to get to the expo theoretically you're spending on your pallet if you have enough stuff.
Yeah, like I think it's still a little more expensive than when you take it across 3 vehicles, and those vehicles' gas is a lot more than normal because they're full of hundreds of pounds of stuff.
Yeah.
And this way we got to bring as much as we possibly could on the pallets. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Now, dear listener, the caveat here is, of course, we haven't got our final weigh bill yet for the pallet, so we will let you know.
We have an idea about some of the legs of the journey, and it seems pretty reasonable, about what you'd think it would be.
Right. So.
Yeah.
But you also need to have sort of hit a point in your creative career where a pallet's justified. Like, not everyone should do a pallet.
No, 100% not. If, both Justin and I have been doing this for over a decade of building up that 80-20 split, being, 80% of our revenue coming from 20% of our repeat customers, and we always have something new, and you have sort of a critical mass of stuff to feed them. That critical mass means you have to bring a little bit of everything you've been working on, and that starts to pile up. So that's sort of where we're at. I wouldn't suggest anyone first jumping into Comic-Con land to say, pallet up and get rolling.
However, if you've been doing this for a while and you're starting to get frustrated by not being able to bring enough stuff to the big shows, I would, say like arranging with the pallet people and getting a pallet arrived or delivered was not nearly as arduous as I thought it was going to be. And being able to jump in with a couple other people that I know are around the same level definitely helped things a lot because we could all kind of figure it out together.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other key thing that we did that like alleviated stress was we put air tags on the pallets so we could watch their journey. They leave the show. The other thing, so we leave for the show like on April 23rd. April 15th, the pallet had to be ready. So we had to get everything ready like a full week ahead of time. But that was kind of nice as well. The stress of prepping for the show got taken away earlier than usual. And then we got to watch the pallet travel like days before we left and arrive at where it was supposed to go. There was a bit of a snafu when we got there. We looked at the phone, and according to the trackers, both pallets are right where they're supposed to be.
This was, dear listener, Star Trek nerds, the Wrath of Khan moment. I want you, those of you who are Trek fans, to remember that scene in the Mutara Nebula where Spock says to Kirk, he's very intelligent, but, he has very two-dimensional thinking. That was us as we were tracking down these pallets. We had very two-dimensional thinking. But not Lyndon. Not Lyndon. You can tell the rest of that story.
So we're about like a half hour away. We're almost at the convention center. And one of our friends, Samantha Biko, who's been on the podcast a couple times before, is sending us pictures from the convention floor. She's there already to say, hey, your pallet has arrived. To which we reply back, you mean both pallets are there, right? She replies back, no, only one pallet is here. Here is a picture proving that only one pallet is there. So now we're starting to panic a little bit because according to our GPS, both should be right there. And
how is it possible?
How is it possible? So now I'm starting to think, like, did we somehow put both air tags on the one pallet? We were so careful to split the air tags up so exactly this wouldn't happen.
And dear listener, you begin to doubt your own sanity. I'm certain we checked both times and we could all remember
seeing two trackers in different locations earlier in the day.
But maybe that's just where they had been as they were moving, because the air tags track the location sort of in a wave, right? It picks up the data and then puts the...
It's very intermittent.
Yeah.
They get lost for like 20 minutes and they're found again, and they kind of get lost because they're bouncing their signal off and they can only get purchase every once in a while.
Like submarine sonar.
Yeah. We get there. And sure enough, there is only one pallet in front of the booth. But according to GPS, both pallets are right there in the room.
Yeah, it's in the room with you.
It's in the room, man.
It's in the room. So we start looking all over, and that is when Lyndon happens to check a stairwell for the pallet. Like maybe it's through these doors. No, just a stairwell. wisdom.
Yeah, that's when the light bulb went off, and I remembered, you know, if you've been to that building at the Calgary Expo, you know that the main ticketing floor is beneath the artist alley.
Which I'd completely forgotten about. And so just through happenstance, the other pallet was a floor below us, exactly under our booth, which this is a massive building. The fact that it was right under the other one.
Even the pallet shipper thought that was a funny coincidence. So turned out everything was fine.
It was all fine.
A very nice gentleman with access to a forklift assured us that he would have no trouble getting it to the top floor, and that these kinds of mistakes are common, and that we should just consider it part of how it happens.
Yeah, that's sort of the pallet cautionary tale that we have, is that everyone in the pallet business, to their credit, is very laissez-faire.
Yes, they are not concerned or stressed out at any point, but you, dear listener, will be very stressed out about your pallet at all points.
Look, the body's gone. Wonder what happened to him. He was dragged down there.
But did anybody run out of anything because you could bring more than enough?
I did run out of a few things. I did
Yeah.
sell out of some things, which was very much a surprise, but also a delight.
But yeah, I would say like a good percentage less I would have made had I had to fly to this show with just 3 suitcases versus,
Oh yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
huge difference.
It was more like a surprise. I would have just sold what I brought, but I brought extra, and so certain things came down, went up or down in a surprise. This maybe is a great time to mention that here we are recording this sort of mundane aspect of our lives on the road.
We're so excited about it.
And we are quite excited about it. And I often wonder, dear listener, who among you out there in podcast land listens or cares about the plights of the artist? And I want to tell you what that person looks like now. They have a face. They have a face, and the face of that person is
Patriotism.
yeah, right. Is dressed in a Captain America cosplay, where all of the American flag colors and symbolism has been swapped for a Canadian flag. It's not a Captain Canuck. Those nerds on the podcast will know that Captain Canuck is a very different character, a very different style of character than Captain America. But if you imagine a Captain America where everything is branded and updated to be Canadian, our Canadian hearts grew 2 sizes as this champion came striding, not just to my booth, but to many of the booths of the people who have been on the podcast in the past. And this champion said something that really was interesting to me. So if you're listening again, hero.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yes, thank you so much. But said that they do not undertake creative pursuits, but they enjoy listening to our endeavors, and they went booth to booth supporting the work of the people who they had heard share their plights on this podcast. So this is our special way of saying thanks to you. We never got your name, Masked Man, but I really appreciate your support of not only myself, but of everyone on the podcast. So
Shout out.
yeah, shout out, yeah. And you have to know that there was a stir in our messages, in our group chat for the podcast and for the studio. Hey, this great guy showed up, and so, oh, he came here too. Oh, they're here too. So you were a hero of the people, and we really appreciated it.
Gregory,
Yes,
you had a table.
I did. Schrodinger's convention all got sorted out more or less.
Were you still, like, because last podcast that just launched, we talked about how you weren't 100%, like you had on the map, it said you had a table.
Yes, all
But you
evidence
still-
suggested that I had a spot.
Were you still a
But
little
all
worried?
experience told me that I shouldn't take that for granted. Yeah, so no, it worked out fine. Not as fine as I would have liked, but
Well enough to be on the floor.
to be on the floor, yeah. And I acquitted myself well of the space I was provided. And I got some nice, lovely compliments from a few other single booth operators that were saying, like, how could you possibly turn this space into such a big event. So that was nice.
And hopefully with the movement over to the larger space next year, you will be restored to your former booth glory.
Yeah,
Former
so
glory, yeah.
with this show, the last, 5 years of the show, it has grown to a point where they can't have it in one building anymore, so they split up Vendors and Artist Alley into two pretty large buildings. And the first years, I think, were kind of rough because attendees didn't realize that it was split between the two, and people were having trouble finding the other buildings or figuring out how it worked. And the convention did things to, like, they'd have big panels in one building and tickets in the other to kind of force people to go to both. And so things like, the back and forth kind of figured itself out. But none of us like it when they split up the convention between two buildings or even like two floors. Like, there's just a percentage of people that don't realize there's more places to explore. And yeah, so it's never ideal.
Well,
but next year...
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Zach.
Well, last year I was in the main building
Right.
after a series of
Without
unfortunate
any
events.
artists around you.
And it was lonely.
Yeah.
I had way more fun this year. It was a little busier, but this year I got to run out and see these guys, and I had a blast.
Those are your notes?
That's my notes.
Those from the changeover?
Yes, I'm being positive.
Yeah.
I have spewed enough vitriol that I will now be positive
Well,
and nice.
I will take the opposite tack.
Nice.
Because I had to work the Infinite Studio booth alone
Yes.
Dun,
It's
dun,
hard.
dun.
without collaborator
It's tough out there
Stephen
alone.
Call. Yeah, it's hard.
Nobody to banter.
That's
with.
right. There was no grumble buddy that I had to complain with.
So
and-
for context, your listener, usually Justin and Steven, the two,
Justin and Steven?
pardon me, yeah, Justin and Steven. That's right. You're out of here, Lyndon. Usually Lyndon and Steven are the two pillars of the Infinite Studio booth. And what's kind of fun about them is they have a playful attitude, kind of like flair bartending while they are
Very
slinging
much.
books.
Yeah, very much.
Slinging books at the show. And Steven, had different priorities this year.
He did.
Yes, he
He
did.
made some decisions.
He made some decisions. He put some other human beings, his newborn baby among them, ahead of Lyndon's needs.
How dare he?
How dare he? And decided that he was best served in the role of a family man this weekend. And in a way, I think that created a situation that was good for you, Lyndon.
For me.
Spawned
Yeah.
an
Oh, no.
opportunity.
To realize how much how much your artist really does lift you up. You actually have that number now. You have that percentage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Quantifiable.
You have a quantifiable number of what he brings.
That's
to the
right,
table.
Steven. If you're listening to this podcast, we now know exactly what percentage of sales you contribute to during our Calgary Expo weekends.
So you
Which-
watch your ass.
Which may not be 100% accurate because the scuttlebutt on the floor was everybody seemed to be a little bit down from last year.
True,
Like
yeah.
nobody was complaining, but it just seemed like the show wasn't quite as busy as years past.
Yeah.
But
Nobody that we spend a lot of time together
Yes.
with was
Yeah.
complaining. There was a lot of complaining.
there was a lot, not in our circle. But the Fan Expo did have really big, they'd put a lot of effort into advertising that next year will be bigger and better, which kind of takes the air out of this year's show just a little bit.
Like big banners of Story High saying, next year will be great.
We'll
Yeah.
start fucking up real soon. Oh, is this PG?
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. We just try to keep it under 2 F-bombs so that we can,
All right.
it's like radio rules.
I'll relinquish control of the other one. I'll leave it in your capable hands.
That's right.
Right at the end as we're signing off.
You cheap hood.
That's for you, lover. Now leave me alone.
I mean, it's kind of a shame that they downplayed it. As far as I'm concerned, aside from not having Stephen Call at my side the entire time, it was, one of the more fun expos we've had in a long time, as far as I'm concerned.
You know what this show did have? And obviously I'm softballing you to this, but this show had a wonderful comics guest. Now, for those of you who did not come up in the comics world in the 90s, who were not little Gregory at the comic store, maybe the word Todd McFarlane doesn't have the same ring to you. But for a guy who was into comics in the 90s, Image Comics was a significant event in my young life, in that suddenly there was another disruptive, super popular, super interesting, super talented group of people on the scene. And I can remember buying my copy of Spawn #1 from that era and reading through it and being kind of blown away, having tracked Mr. McFarlane's work through. My favorite work of his was on Hulk in those days, which I bought off the newsstand right around the time that the price jump was happening in comics. And so this was like a significant event where it went from 75 cents to $1 to $1.25, and like, oh my goodness. Oof. Right? What is happening? And then like a bolt of lightning, Image Comics arrived. So Todd McFarlane is an important figure in Canadian comics because as a Canadian himself, and a Calgarian.
Yes.
Yeah, as a Calgarian, he was one of these figures that said you don't have to live in New York in order to make it in the comic space. And you know, FedEx has been invented. Why don't I just live wherever I want? Mm-hmm. And this was also a not a done thing at the time. And millions of copies of Spider-Man meant that he could encourage so many of his creative brethren to jump ship and form a company of their own on their own recognizance.
Now, his point of living anywhere was quickly undermined when he chose Calgary. However, symbolically, it's a great move.
Symbolic.
Now, Gregory, have you ever met Todd McFarlane before?
I've met Todd, yeah.
When was that? What was it like?
That must have been, I don't remember what show it was, and it was very brief. It was just one of those like, yeah, hey, as he swings past in the crowd.
Yeah, because as I understand, he did some walks through Artist Alley at the Calgary show.
I got a nod as Todd walked past.
A Todd nod, yeah.
Todd
nod. Yeah. And for those of you new to this deification of comics greats, he is often referred to as the Todd Father among comics people, but he actually brought the Todd Father, his actual father, on the tour with him this time. And so in their talks, he would bring his dad out and he would introduce him as the Todd Father, and his dad would play harmonica while he told stories of making comics.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So unfortunately, I was not part of the exterior row of booths that Todd walked through. It seemed like he did do it twice. You know, he wanted to talk to all of the invited artists that were at the Expo. And because Justin's booth in Calgary faces the exterior wall.
Which, let's come back to that. I want to gripe about guests, but go ahead.
Because Justin's booth faces the exterior wall, that's how he was bequeathed a Todd nod. I was an interior table, and so I did not receive a Todd nod, even though all I wanted for much of that weekend was to see Todd McFarlane come strolling down my row so that I could show him the Infinite Studio booth. Yearned for it and was not given.
I was facing outward and just didn't notice if he did go by, so that's fine.
But you were not to be dissuaded by such things.
I was not to be dissuaded. So to protect the innocence of those involved, I was invited to, or given an opportunity to meet Todd after the show one evening. And more than just a Todd nod, I was actually lucky enough to speak with him for a couple of minutes and share some of the work that Stephen and I had made together, which, if you know Stephen Call, who is a giant Todd McFarlane fan and whose work is clearly influenced by Todd's art style, meant a lot to both me and Stephen. And one of the fun coincidences about this show was that Stephen and I had decided we were going to lean into more fan art prints this show, actually as a direct result of our experience in Calgary and Saskatoon last year. You can revisit that episode, the B&B Bros episode, where we talk about the Hellboy prints and the value of fan art. But the point of this being, we had leaned into making more prints for this show, which included Stephen's Spawnuary prints that he had done for Spawnuary in January. And I had decided to bring those pieces of art with me to my meeting with Todd.
So, dear listener, it's important for you to know that it's pretty rare for big comic companies to do open talent searches. But every now and then, Todd McFarlane Productions will reach out to the world at large and say, show me what you got. And so that's what Spawnuary was. It was a really nice Venn diagram where we're going to take over Instagram a little bit and have all the artists doing my character that you may not have heard of as a way of giving those artists a shot at working on doing covers for a Spawn book. And rather than select one, which was their original plan, I believe they selected, there was such an overwhelming number of participants, they selected 5 covers?
I don't know what the final number was.
But
There was a significant number. Yeah, it was a significant raise.
Did they pay these artists, or was this a
I don't know what the
exposure thing?
details of it are. Given that Stevens, weren't selected.
Yeah, we don't have the inside track. But I
yeah.
do know that it made a lot of people very happy that all the participation meant that they expanded the scope of the search to include that. So that's also a rare thing. You won't see that happen very often in the comic space. So that's pretty cool.
So I had this opportunity to show some of Steven's work, even though he wasn't at the show with me, and to show Todd the books that we had made, and just sort of thank him for his influence on us and for everything he's done in comics. And so I had an overwhelmingly positive experience with Todd McFarlane, which I feel very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to have more than just a few passing seconds.
And we were talking about this earlier in another context, that if you spend any time at all in a creative field where you are not shaken loose by the challenges, the bumps and bruises that come along with trying to do that, and you've hung around a little while, there will be people who come to you, who look up to you, who ask for advice, and it can mean so much to receive encouragement from a person that has been through it. And so, time and time again, I hear stories about people interacting with Todd and his company, really. And this is a role that they have accepted. They didn't ask for it, but they're in that space now where they are encouraging young artists, they're encouraging people to do stuff for the first time. And it means a lot. So if that's you, dear listener, and you're wondering why people are asking you all kinds of questions that they didn't ask you before, it could be that they perceive that you have made it, even though you know that you can never quite make it.
That's
right?
right.
You're really just on the journey.
You're always chasing.
Yeah. So it could be you. Look around. If you've got a few gray hairs on your head or in your beard, perhaps it could be that people look to you as a successful person.
And so the successful people that are often invited guests to these shows would do well to stay at their tables for the entire show 4 hours, right, Justin?
No human could eat it and live. He defies all the laws of man and God.
There may be an entirely new set of laws, Jim.
Conventions have Artist Alley, where anybody, regardless of scale, level, or medium, or whatever, can buy a table, right? If you do 3D sculptures, if you do clay, if you knit, if you do digital art, if you do traditional art.
If you steal other people's art from the internet and then carve it into wood,
you'll get kicked. Yeah. As long as you're making your own thing, you can buy a table at Artist Alley and set up a display, and then people can come and check out your stuff. And this is how we got started, right? This is where my artistic career began. Just exposing thousands of people to my artwork, and that's where kind of clients came from, and the income started to pick up, and I was able to eventually quit my job and do Artist Alley full time. There's another section on the floor for guests, and guests are people that if you're into comics, you'll recognize the names, right? They've proven themselves and worked on big projects for DC and Marvel and movies and video games, and they're renowned artists, right? They are the big dogs. However, they're invited guests, so their tables are paid for, their flights are usually paid for, their hotels, or some combination of those things, right? It's not, every show's a little bit different. For bigger shows, I imagine it's usually all those things.
Yeah, and the rationale for the show is we're going to bring names you heard of.
Right.
We're going to promote those names, and that's going to be a draw to bring people in to pay the ticket price so
Yeah.
that they can have their work signed, they can talk to the creator directly.
Right.
Steven Skorse, who did, to me is most famous for doing the storyboards on The Matrix and doing one of my absolute favorite comics of really the 2000s, Doc Frankenstein. He was there promoting his new Keanu Reeves sort of mast-headed Project Berserker, which he had done a complete issue of. And I got to talk to him, I got that why they do it.
Yeah.
I understand, because
yeah.
even I was like, yeah, this guy is rad.
Absolutely. Like we totally understand. The thing that usually like bugs me a little bit is the guests don't really put on much of a storefront. Like a table display is kind of very low priority to them.
Yeah.
So most guests will not have, they'll usually have a banner behind them and a portfolio on the table, and that is it. And what this seems to do for normal people who are not familiar with the guests is they don't think that there's anything really to buy from the guests. So they're not going over to like explore the guest alley, really check it out. The only people who are going to the guest alley are people who recognize the names and are there for a purpose.
Yeah,
Nobody's discovering the guests.
Yeah, Nerdland is pretty niche.
Yeah.
And so, just as I just did, right? If you know what they're from and you know what they worked on and you know their bona fides, you're happy to wait in line and you're happy. But if you don't,
nobody's going up. It's like, oh, so what do you do,
Yeah.
right? That's a conversation that's happening in Artist Alley constantly, but nobody seems to be going to the guest alley to see what's up. They're only going there if they're on a mission. And so being across from guest alley, I noticed the only people going up to the tables have very long conversations because they want to talk about whatever they're in love with that guest is responsible for. The other thing that this kind of brings is less enthusiasm from the guests themselves.
Sometimes.
And it especially bugs me that the guest alley is usually pretty empty in the morning because few of them show up when the show starts, and they often leave before the show ends. And when you're kind of adjacent to guest alley and people are like, when people see an alley that's mostly empty, they'll skip that one and go to one that's full of people and exciting things. And when you're beside guest alley that clears out an hour before the show ends, people are likely to skip your row, right? The guests not caring has now hurt other artists because even though you want to talk to the people, you're sandwiched between an empty row and your own.
That Starship Troopers meme comes to mind. I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I didn't do fucking shit.
Damn, there goes the second
No,
one.
that's the second one.
we can't sign off on
No, you can't sign off on it. Maybe we'll squeeze one more bit of bad language.
We better.
Yeah. So,
I know, that's just me yelling at a cloud.
yeah, that's just an old man yelling at clouds now. But if you are attending one of these shows and you happen to be there early and you happen to see a person in the guest aisle, you've never heard of them and you've always wondered, what is that person doing? What is that thing that's on their table? You please go, dear listener, and interact with them and let them know that you appreciate that they are there on time to work.
Even if they're sitting down on their phone?
Maybe especially if they're sitting down on their phone.
All right, so one of the things that we always try and do when we're doing a recap is we ask what we would change or do differently next year. Now, I know that what I would do differently is bring Steven with me. And, we hope that we can continue leveling up our booth because we're a two-table. We'd like to become an end cap. We'd like to add more books to the table. We'd like to have some more fan art. But I'm interested, especially from you, Zach, as your table continues to grow.
Yes.
What sort of things everyone here would like or would have done differently or will do differently in the future?
And I'll give you a little bit of a tire pumping here also. Zach and I are working together on a project called the Charlatan, and we should have our new issue of that project ready for the Winnipeg Comic Con this October. And so one of the reasons why Zach is tangled up with the ne'er-do-wells like us is that he is a very talented cartoonist who slings ink on paper as well as digital comics, as good as the best of them, frankly. And so, how many years have you been doing shows?
2020 was, I'd done some little things here and there, but 2020 was my first kind of launch with my book Thread into the world of making comics all the time.
Is that the one where you shared with Steven?
Yeah, I guess that was the first one I had Thread out for. I'd done some little craft things before that, but yes.
So you're relatively new to the let's lower our shark cage into a room full of...
I had helped run booths for friends before,
Right.
and had little sections of them here and there, and I've been around for 10, 15 years of that.
But not your own table.
But not my own table. Well, I just put my hand in ink.
Yes.
I'm going to leave it.
Because Zach is not focused on this conversation whatsoever.
I wish you could see the deftness to which he was using this crow quill pen to ink his new Dire Beast story. Oh, we have something else to talk to.
That's
not yet.
We'll go last with improvements, and I'll bring that one up.
Okay, so improvements, Zach. What improvements would you make?
Well, the big one is I've been building upwards like we suggested last year, and I did a good job of that, I think. But I asked to be nearer to these hooligans once again, not just in the car ride over, but at the Expo, because I was kind of in a corner. I was in the building.
You're in the same building.
I'm slowly inching my way towards the rest of them, and by next year I'll be poised to strike.
We'll definitely be in the same building next year. It's a BMO.
It's going to be the best year ever next year.
Yeah.
Not this year.
Not this year, but next year, because they're going to level the building we were in. Yeah.
At least it didn't rain on our heads this year in there. That's progress.
That's true.
Didn't snow.
Didn't snow, and it didn't leak like that one year.
Yeah, one year it leaked.
It had a water feature.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it had a water
You
feature.
pay more for that some places.
Yeah. So, proximity to people that you enjoy being one. But this has a, direct effect if you're trying to table for a show, because people can wingman you, right? Oh, if you got this book for me, you should definitely go over there and check out that one. And that can be the community aspect of it. So, how about you, Justin? Or you want to go last?
I want to go last. So we
Okay,
can talk
so
about Dire Beasts.
definitely that community aspect is something that I'm looking forward to next year at the Calgary show. We have plans to, and have already begun talking to show organizers about the possibility of having all of our booths placed more central to one another in the new floor plan and new map. In confusion, there is opportunity, and so that is what we are relying on in that big shake-up, and they put all the pieces back together.
Although, one of the funnest things to do this weekend was when somebody bought Dead Work, all four of us are involved, and so it was kind of, okay, this event is happening now. You bought Dead Work, now I get to send you on an adventure. You have homework with this purchase. You need to go find Gregory, and he's going to draw it for you. And then he's going to send you to Lyndon. He's going to do something. So you get all these free things around the show if you buy this book, and people really gravitated towards that. We had a ton of fun with it. There's a lot of smack talk involved with these drawings. Like, once I got a Dead Work from Gregory, he'd usually say something about, tell Justin to do a good job this time.
Yeah, my inner dungeon master and my inner smack talker would combine. So first I would tell them which paths, because from my booth, there were two paths to take to any of the others. So he's either Lyndon set up the Dead Work, or Justin did, and so I'd have two other people to send them along the way to.
So I just wonder, if we're all together in one island, is that going to kind of diminish the excitement of the chase, that chase sketch item?
Or will it include the huzzas? Will it elevate the amount of
now
excitement?
You could just go with them. You can, maybe some people that we told to go get this wouldn't actually do it, but now we can physically lead them to their next stop. Now you're going to be at this table.
There was a lot more excitement around the book that we had, I believe, at the last show already. This year seemed to catch on. People really were talking about, I heard people walk by talking about how artists were now sending people around to get sketches and all the anthologies. And
which I like to.
In fact, we had some copycats.
Yeah, I wouldn't say copycats. I would say.
Let's say we started it.
Yeah,
we did start it.
Okay, we can say copycats, but it was with love, right? It was with love.
Admiration.
Yeah, admiration. So George McHale's book Cover of Darkness, one of the projects that he did was a graphic novel collection called Cover of Darkness Origins, and I had done a 12 or 15 page story in there, And so had a number of other artists who were also at the show. And so they started a sketch quest also, saying if you sign, pick it up from us, go see Gregory and go see John Delaney and go see some other folks working on the book. And so there was at least 2 volumes of work flying around the show that would hit, about 10 different places. And it's our tangible way of saying thank you for supporting the book. And then those people who have bought the book can actually look right in your eyes and know how much you appreciate it while they draw a monster or a weird thing for you. And so that was, I think, something I'm looking forward to next year, is to figure out how to make that even more enjoyable for the person that does it. It can be, to an attendee, a grind actually to be at a show for longer than 5 or 6 hours or something.
It's socially draining. It's visually overwhelming. It's all your senses are being assaulted.
Yeah, at all times.
At all times.
By us.
By us. And so to
Even smell.
Yes.
So to help combat the fatigue of that attention warfare, we do this sketching as a way of saying, like, here's something that costs you absolutely no money. It's one more way to make you enjoy the show, and we think of ourselves kind of as show ambassadors that way. Like,
And it's something you can't get in a bookstore.
Yeah.
Or online from Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, we said it now, though. Now the algorithm is tracking us. Right? So that's when
drone outside?
Yes, it's hovering outside the window right now.
We're being watched.
Where? I can't see anything.
There's something moving in the bushes.
Oh, it's probably one of the men.
Boys will be boys. Come on, let's get out of here.
We can't flirt about it anymore, Justin. You're just going to have to talk about Dire Beast.
Did everybody do their
I think
improvements?
so, yes.
Yeah. My improvements for next year was I didn't have any new books this year. I don't have a new art book ready yet. It's under construction. And my next graphic novel, Spark Chasers, is 250 pages, so it's taken me a very long time. I had so many people come up at this show specifically looking for my new books, and not having any, it hurt me a little bit. I had new art. I'd been working on so many pages for books, but I didn't have anything ready. So I'm especially excited.
Don't jump over that. Tell me about that feeling.
About
the person who shows up super enthusiastic, and
the
then
book?
you can only hand them disappointment.
Well, part of it is trying to convince them that I have been working hard.
It's like the teacher asks to see your homework and you're like, no, I did it. I just
Yeah.
left it at home.
Like the what's new this year, and you
No.
point out the 8 new things, but none of them are really for that person, and so they're kind of disappointed in your new work. That happens every once in a while, and it always stings because you've put your heart and soul into what you have that's new, but it just doesn't grab them. But for next year, I'm especially excited based on the success of Dead Work and what we loved about the project. We wanted to do another anthology. And so at Prairie Comics last year, I wanted to do some kind of monster book, monster anthology. I wanted to do a story that revolved around a monster. And then Lyndon, around that same time, found a book that just had the most beautiful format. It was the right size. It was the right kind of paper.
And when Justin says around the same time, we mean within 20 minutes of this idea hatching, Lyndon runs up and says, look at this format. Look at how this book is done.
We could do this.
We could do this. And Justin says, have I got the idea for that format?
Because we were playing with anthology ideas, like the Dead Work 2, what would we call it, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of hijacked it and said, okay, monster. We're going to do monster stories. Could you do a monster story? We all like monster stories. So Dire Beasts, the rule is it must contain a monster. It can be up to 10 pages and must contain a monster. And this idea definitely resonated with all our regulars that we talked to about it. Everybody we've talked to likes the monster idea.
We have one other rule, and I can't remember why we did it, why we became those people who created a horrible gate or an inviting gate and then slammed it shut to some. One of the rules is you have to illustrate and write your own story. You can't have any mercenaries.
Sure that was you.
That was definitely you.
That was definitely you because
No.
I
Yeah.
invited J-Ball and then you had to uninvite him.
No.
Yes.
Is this my fault?
This is your
yes,
fault.
definitely your fault.
Why did I do this?
I don't know.
Spite.
I thought short stories were part of it. And so I told both Sam and J-Ball, hey, you should do short stories. And then Gregory arrived.
And then I guess I invited them. My horrible gatekeeping idea, it turned out, was to say you basically have to have all the skills, bring them all
Yes.
to bear. And I don't know why I would. That's not like me to exclude people.
But I think
And yet here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
But yeah, the main thrust of it, we're going to Kickstarter with this project, and that's what I've been working on these days off, is kind of the Dire Beast Kickstarter. And the launch of this, we're basically doing a Kickstarter to just kind of kick it off with some advertising. We don't necessarily need big funding, because the idea of this is everybody's going to buy into the print run. Everybody involved with the Dire Beast anthology is going to want 100 to 300 books to sell at their table, to make money that way. We're not asking people pay more than what they're going to cost to print. And these are all people who do conventions and know how to move books. So we're giving them a new book for their table with this project.
Since there's all those high finance people that follow us, it's like it's like a comics mutual fund. All the different companies putting their eggs in that basket, and then everyone helping to lift it up. So we think it's a good idea because it allows a small percentage of the work to be focused, direct, and we think kind of interesting and different. But then when you put it all in a pile, it makes a
Big book.
A big book.
Yeah, and like 10 pages black and white is, like, for people who make comics, that's an easy ask compared to basically any other project.
Yeah.
Right? 32 pages of color takes some time. 10 pages black and white. Zach has already cracked out 3 pages while we've had this conversation.
I started this morning and I didn't nap like the rest of you.
Yeah.
I was napping today. I should have taken a nap.
And being black and white, it keeps our print costs lower.
It does.
And a smaller format. We're thinking of a digest size book.
Yeah.
So the cost would be lower, and what are the parameters for this? Everyone needs to have files in by a certain date, and if they don't show up, they're out.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's we're trying to make it as
I don't want to chase people.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
We don't.
and you know what? I think that is ultimately probably where my idea of, like, you got to write it and draw it yourself.
Yeah.
Was that's how you can cut out so much of the chasing, right? Because it's very easy time-wise. An idea can be difficult to crack, but the time it takes to write a 10-page script and the time it takes to draw it are very different.
So can anybody be in this book?
That's a good question, book boss. Justin is in charge of who is and isn't in this book now.
And then the other reason that we specifically asked people that we knew of their work professionalism and that they do conventions, and there's a couple parameters that led us to asking certain people. And the reason we don't want to just open this up to anybody can be part of this is the book is already going to be somewhere between 150 to 200 pages. We are not exactly sure, but if we open it up and everybody submits, this book gets too expensive.
Untenable, too expensive, yeah. It's and we're kind of reaching out to people who, in the wrestling parlance, you would say have mic skills, right? Like, they are going to engage with the crowd, they're going to engage with the sort of fun of the chase, and they're going to, either cast shade or sunlight, whichever they prefer, to get you going to chase that next person on the train. So that's what we're trying to do this time around also.
I had to draw.
Yeah.
It's
And
ridiculous. This stupid rule made me have to draw.
Meanwhile, Gregory's going, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
Whose crazy idea was that?
If it made you draw, which we know that you can draw, but if it made you now work at composition and storytelling, now you know more about what you're asking of your artists, and I think that's a good lesson for all.
Yeah, it's that I should ask more of them.
I see less 9-panel grids in my future.
It's that I should ask more of my artists now, if I can do it.
If you can do it. Oh, I see. So, what does the road gives a lot, gentlemen, but the road also takes away. What does the road take away? For me, it takes away time from the family. It takes away that stability of where I'm going to be from night to night. It takes away some of the ability to just fully and completely relax when you're not working, because when you're traveling, every day feels a little bit like a work day, which is partially why this day on the calendar feels kind of special, because we all agreed not to leave the house, right?
Justin walked for coffee this morning. That was it.
Yeah.
Everyone else just hunkered down and just...
I regret
Napped.
walking for
Oh,
that
yeah.
coffee. It didn't deserve it.
My brother is dead out there. He was only 30 feet from me. He died, I didn't. Can't understand it.
Let's be real talk for the dear listener.
Zach, how's this different from your normal day?
I sat here and forgot to eat meals and drew comics, so I'm kind of not feeling the difference. I might have been the wrong guy to ask here. This was a fairly standard day, but when I look outside, it's Saskatoon. I don't look outside, mind you.
Right.
I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
But were I to?
Yeah.
Saskatoon?
But you're a young man,
I am.
right? You and your roommate live
Fancy
together,
free.
right? Footloose and fancy free. And so
I get a little obsessed
you get a little obsessed.
with comics.
And when you're obsessed, who in the house notices your absence?
Nobody.
That's right. How about you, Lyndon?
I'm completely outside of my regular routine. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not boxing. I'm not playing soccer. I'm not with my wife. She got a flat tire this week. She had to deal with it on her own. My cat was sick for a day. She had to take care of him.
Your roof was leaking.
My roof was leaking. I had to arrange the repairs from across the country. It got fixed. I'm not creating in the same hours that I'm used to, just because it's, again, not part of my daily rhythm. So really everything is different from my regular schedule. But, the benefit, if we're doing a cost benefit, going to the Calgary show, which you wouldn't necessarily think of as a career building move as far as comic book shows go,
Definitely
was
was.
something that turned out to be something that I couldn't have missed, because I had the ability to meet Todd McFarlane, and I had a great chat with Mitch Gerrits, who did a pull quote in our Laundryman book, so I was able to give him his contributor copy finally in person and show him the booth and what we've been working on. And we had some discussions with publishers that were present at the show about any future opportunities that may come up. And so there's such a benefit that comes to going to these shows, even when you don't necessarily expect there to be, that I was reminded that as much as I would love to spend all of my days holed up in the house that I just bought and I'm just paying bills on and not have to come out here, there are reasons to do so.
You're just really twisting the knife on old Steven there. That was spiteful and malicious.
It was not spiteful and malicious
Okay,
at all.
now how can I make
Right.
Stephen feel bad? Let's go.
No, Steven made the right call, pun intended.
Did he though?
And I tried to do everything I could to make it as though he was there anyway. To the point where when someone would come up to my booth, I would say, I'm the writer, Steven's the artist, this is our booth, and I would never specify that he wasn't at the show. Because it's better when the artist is there.
Yeah, that's funny, right? If they just assume he's at the bathroom.
Yeah,
they're
he's
more like,
not
"Yeah."
at the table right now.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. New Babyland is a tough one. That is a tough one. How about you, Justin? What do you leave behind?
I always look forward to this show because my process is heavily involved with the Cintiq tablet, the drawing tablet. So I have a rig at the studio and a rig at home that I paint directly onto a screen, this big screen called a Cintiq. And I do all my drawing in vector, and that's where I spend 99% of my time and my productivity. And it's almost kind of nice to not have that option. Like I can't get progress going on painting. So instead I've been writing more and I've been sketching more and I've been working on like
Even during this podcast, you're sketching away
I'm
in your
sketching
sketchbook
away
with
on
a
my
brush
new
pen and
yes, new
So-
sketchbook. So you've been saying a lot during this trip, the saying a change is as good as a rest.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm being less productive than normal, but I definitely am switching gears, and so that's always kind of nice. I also, because I make the majority of my living in Artist Alley, doing robot art and fan art. The last like 2 months, I've been trying to convince myself to play video games, and I always find excuses to work instead of starting up a video game. And so this is the one time of year where we set aside days to do nothing but play video games.
Yeah, so as long as we're going on the record with shout outs to special people, Tom, thank you so much for putting us up post Calgary show. It has become the one place I realized where my nervous system accepts that I'm not going to do any work or think about work. In fact, I don't even check my email or really my text messages for those 2 days post show. I just actually relax. And so also the designers of Titanfall, the 2016 Titanfall 2, the 2016 game that we finally got around to playing. Wow, you guys did a really great job.
It was a really fun game. Yeah, Titanfall 2 was great.
Not only did we play it, but we played it through all the way to the end, totally engaged in the excellent storytelling. And I'm really sorry that your release got overshadowed by some other 2 AAA titles, because you deserved it.
Yeah.
You deserved it, team. That's a solid game. Couldn't believe it had come out in 2016. That's how I kept thinking.
Yeah. I do find like when we have these like work retreats, if I try to tell myself this is exactly what I'm going to work on, like I try to schedule it, the motivation for that is never there.
Yeah.
But if I leave it kind of Mobius, like we're going to have some days off, I'm going to do some writing, I'm going to plan out some of this, some of that. Like if I leave it a little vague, things always work out. But if I try to force myself to, just do writing for this project, that's the last thing I want to work on.
Right. And we also really enjoyed going to see the 45-year anniversary of Alien back in the theater. So it was kind of thematically, it's been like looking at other people's old work and realizing that if you do your best, there's an audience for you that stretches maybe much farther than you imagine. Everyone is so caught up in what the release is of everything. When we have a new book, it's like, those few months after it comes out, you got to put your shoulder to the grindstone and hope that it all turns out. But truth be told, I brought a big stack of Imagination Manifestos, which is like work of mine from 2006 to 2009.
Yeah.
And I sold out of them at the show to people. It was a new book on the table that they hadn't seen. And I kept having to do that thing where it's like, well, I'm better at this now. This is an important book to me because this is how I gained my confidence. Yeah. But
do you get jealous at your past self sometimes? When people like clearly want that work from a couple of years ago, you get a little bitter at past Gregory?
Yes. But I often think about Stephen King's book on writing, where he talks about people who think the best work he's ever done was The Stand, and it's like 30 years ago that he did that book. And you just have to remember that people connect with a work.
Yeah.
And they connect emotionally with that work in that time and space. And that's not up to you.
Time does some things to it as well.
Yeah, right? Think of what we're doing. 2016, Titanfall 2, we hope there's a Titanfall 3. We immediately looked it up to wonder if there was a release. No, other people didn't connect to it, but definitely a cool story, a cool game, a cool experience. It's not up to the creator to decide the life a work will have in the hearts of the people who it connects with. So what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
Try to think of myself as a different person. The person I was when I made the Imagination Manifesto is not the person I am now. And so I kind of can look at it with a bit of a detachment and say like, there's something to learn from that guy when I'm now looking at how people respond to the work. So that's my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we launched a book, There Was Another Life, and like for the show we launched it, but our main seller remained The Laundryman. And it's so interesting as we're talking about this because I was sold some copies of Infinite Universe at the show, and I had that same response, which was like, this was a long time ago, this, don't judge me based on what this book looks like, and look how far we've come. And I used Infinite Universe as a direct comparison to There Was Another Life when we talked about the art and the writing styles, because it's come so far. But it's kind of interesting to think how much excitement we had launching that first book 6 years ago versus we launched this book this week and it felt almost underwhelming because people wanted more laundrymen.
Right. And your new thing sometimes doesn't create the ripples in the pond you hope.
It takes a minute to catch on.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like people need to see it those 2 or 3 times before it clicks.
Yeah.
When we saw that with Dead Work, right? We had Dead Work last year. It didn't have nearly the catch that it did this year, right?
Yeah.
Nothing changed.
And I wonder if it's also because a primary element of our sales structure is that we are promoting it ourselves. And it takes a little while to figure out how to talk about a book the way...
Absolutely.
Like, to say it in a concise way, what it really means to you and why it's fun and interesting. And each of us have a different way that we do that. Yeah. And so that can be, what happens with your book is that you
hone that conversation down.
That's right. You knew what it was to make it.
Right.
And so you made it.
Yeah.
And then you had to figure out how to explain why someone else should care.
Which is why it's good to talk about your book before it comes out so you can get a kickstart on that. Like, so when somebody comes to your table, buys your book, like as they're checking out, as you're baking it up, you can pitch what you're working on next just so they have that kernel in their brain for next year.
Yeah.
And you can hone that conversation so when it comes out, you're not fumbling over what it is or how to describe it to people.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Well, the clarion call of my last few changes I have to make before I can submit my Dire Beast pages are calling to me.
I gotta go boxing.
And Justin is going to go hit some people in the face. So, dear listener,
strangers,
thank you for coming on this journey with us. And for those of you who have been following along, you masked men,
Oh, Captain, my Captain!
That's right. We really appreciate all the time that you have spent with us here on Super Pulp Science, and we look forward to telling you more of the journey. This is GMB Kamichuk encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.
Fuck.